The beginning of a new year. It's supposed to bring change, right? New resolutions, get in shape, new goals, and new copyright restrictions on Benchy? Well, yeah, as of the 1st of January 2025, printables and some other sites started cracking down on the CC/ND license for Benchy, which means no changes or alterations. So this one is fine. This one's definitely not fine, and maybe this one, who knows? So does that mean that the unofficial mascot of everything 3D printing just kicked everybody out and said no more? Not really. The owners of Benchy have basically ignored all the derivatives for years now, and that means that the changes and enforcement that's been coming recently, well, that's all because of the databases. Fortunately, the owners of Benchy and 3dbenchy.com, they caught wind of this pretty quick and did something I think we all thought was already in place. They basically made it public domain. Now, the new license is technically Creative Commons CC0 1.0 Universal License, but all of that basically means go for it. Whatever you want to do it. Before that happened, though, a lot of people got upset.
I can't just stand by and watch this happen.
I saw creators putting out videos, boycotts were mentioned, all sorts of stuff going crazy like that. And, well, I started looking around as well, wondering about other prints that might replace the good old Benchy. And guess what? There's a lot, but you can't just replace Benchy with a 20mm cube, right? It's got to be something you'd want to stick on a shelf, you know, admire, something you could be proud of. Are these test prints better than Benchy? Since these are all supposed to be tests of not only how good they look, but how well they test your printer, I kind of followed some really strict rules. Well, for me, and not really all that strict, but I tried to do the same settings on all of them. They were all sliced in Orca Slicer, and I used a number of different printers. I had the Bamboo A1, A1 Mini, P1S, a Creality K1, and I didn't do clean time lapses because I know that sometimes will mess up your prints, and I only printed one item at a time.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But I did follow all the directions on the pages for each print, if they had something. Otherwise, I just did a 0.2mm standard line height setting with a 15% gyroid infill. Now first up we have the Calibration Cube Dice XYZ. And this is a really cool print. It's 20 by 20 by 20, but other than testing for accuracy and clarity and all those types of things, it's actually a functional 6-sided dice. So print them in different colors, use them in your games, and have fun. The Calibration Cube, that is also an interlocking block, well, that first time did not turn out all that great, and I think it's because my filament was wet. So I tried it again. The black and this different white filament actually all turned out really great. This checks your X and Y as well as your Z height, and you can even check the size of that small little top cube there that just fits together, and they interlock like it says, so pretty cool. Probably the weirdest print out of all of these is this cube head calibration cube, and while it didn't print exactly perfectly level on top for some reason, and there's not really any info on the page, it does appear to be a 30mm cube. It tests overhangs with the ears and different things and clarity, and I saw in the comments that somebody was leaving them in different places around the office, so, you know, this is one you can definitely have fun with.
Wow, a big ugly head!
Now the Minecraft calibration cubes come in 3 types. I only printed 2. I got the ore and the redstone, and there's also a small chest. And these are standard 20mm cubes, so print them out, test them, and do Minecraft stuff. Now this next one is one that I had the most trouble with, and I'm wondering if this had something to do with my printer, except that I tried a couple of different printers. And that's this calibration cube that looks really, really cool. And I love how it's kind of interlocking, sort of, but it's really just all touching on the inside. It even comes with a side that goes down so you can connect it to your base with a screw in there. The problem is that the underside that's supposed to be bridging and I'll show you that up close. That did not turn out great on any of my prints. The K1, the P1S, and I even tried something different. I tried printing it on its corner like this with a large brim, and even then, I ended up with pretty much the exact same issues on the bottom. I don't really understand what's going on with this. I'm suspecting there may be a design issue, but if you put this together with some supports, kind of forget about the overhanging tests and bridging tests, then
That defeats the whole purpose.
I think this is a really cool print. So, you know, you might just want to give it a try. Now here's one that has become kind of a replacement for a lot of people for Benchy, and that's the Cali Cat. And I have to say, this is a cute little thing. I'm not a cat guy. It does test your dimensions, overhangs, suspended bridges, things like that. I really like the idea of the Cali Corgi. So I'm more of a dog person, yes. And this one's kind of interesting. It's 42 millimeters tall, and they say in the description, because Corgis are also the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And if you know hitchhikers, then you know what that means.
42.
To go along with that, I printed the Cali Penguin. And again, you've got great little things that you can test here. And of course, with your Cali Cat, you kind of need to have a Cali Mouse, right? This Cali Mouse basically has the exact same types of settings and tests for you, and I just love the little tail out there, and it just goes together with the whole thing. So have fun. There's many more. I'll put more links to this in the description for all of these. I think I ran across a good dozen or so. I'll put some of the ones that look the best in the description. You can check those out and make your own little Cali print family.
Family means
Nobody gets left behind
Or
forgotten.
Now, a while back, 3D Hubs came out with their Marvin keychain, and he's a small little print. There's not really any info on the page.
The uranium PL-36 explosive space modulator.
So I used a 2 millimeter standard setting. This does test overhang, smoothness, especially on the top and everything, and sharpness. And you can even see for that little keychain there. So there's a lot of great little tests, and he's just cute. Next up is Tim's Test Train, and this one took me a little bit by surprise. This is designed really to help you, as they say in the description, to reduce plastic waste. There's 9 parts, and I just printed the engine, and they test different things, and then once you put it all together and everything looks great, it's a toy. Every axle, every wheel turns. I mean, it is just amazing how well this printed out, and I may actually go back and print the whole train just because I'm kind of really impressed by how well this turned out. And speaking of how well things turned out, the AstroPrint Rocket is awesome. I really wanted to print this in multiple colors just because it's such a great little print. There's not a lot of info on Thingiverse, but if you go to their blog, you're going to see a lot of tests. Everything that you can possibly imagine. The only thing I didn't understand was they ask you to print it with a 20% infill. It is very solid. Now on my A1, this did take almost 2.5 hours, so it's a hefty print with that 20% infill, but I would imagine you can probably knock that down. Another little quick, neat print is this 3D Tankor. Now this had a few little bottom tracks underneath that were slightly messed up just from, I guess, bridging or whatever. 20% infill here as well. And I just love the way it looks. Now, I mentioned the Marvin robot from before. Here is the Kenji print-in-place Benchy robot, and there's a lot of moving parts on here. Now, my slicer with this one also said that it had floating regions, but I turned all of that off. It works perfect. There's a little keychain on the back. I can imagine having a bunch of these just laying around. For those of you into Pokemon, well, you haven't been left out. There's the low poly Bulbasaur, and I printed the first one in white on my A1 Mini. There's some zits and some little problems with it and everything, and so, you know, testing, I tried out a different color, tried the blue. The blue is absolutely perfect. So that tells me that I'm having an issue with that white. I'm gonna stick it in the dryer, and hopefully that'll fix that. There's a lot to this one for such a low poly Bulbasaur. And last up I have what I hope I'm pronouncing right, the QuBenchy Bot. And this was based off of the original QuBenchy testing thing that was another replacement for the 3D Benchy. And I printed this one as a little stiff to bend at first, but there's so much to this one. Look at the legs, every little piece moves on here, even the arms move back and forth. It's just a transformer, basically. Now, there's supposed to be 80+ tests on the QuBenchy page that you can also use on this. There was no line height specified, so, you know, 0.2 millimeter standard is what I did. And this one also showed some floating regions in my slicer, no problem. On my A1 Mini, 2.5 hours, so it's not a quick print, but I think it turned out really cool. So what do you think? Are any of these better than the standard old Benchy? And if you saw my video that I made last year on how most of us are missing a lot of the tests that we're supposed to be doing on the Benchy, well, you may want to check that out. I do want to point out that while I had a few issues with zits, blobs, stringing, well, those issues aren't always retraction problems or speed related. Point in case, you know, I did point out a couple times that my problem with some of these was going to be wet filament.
It's all fake news.
Fake news.
So it's always better to double check and maybe waste a little filament than to go in and make a bunch of changes that actually aren't helping. Is there another print that you think everybody might like or that you think works better than any of these? Let us all know in the comments. And let's keep testing and printing as we all learn, create, and amaze.